Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
Can we just have a little bit more?
Bring that hand up higher.
Can we just have a little bit more specifically about when you go to the Harvard as to like what are you guys going to be doing?
Oh, okay, excellent question. Actually, I brought the book, which is Instructional Rounds in Education, which is written by Richard Elmore and Associates. And we get to be in classes with some of the most renowned experts in terms of teaching and learning in the entire country at Harvard. And then we also are able, in teams, to go into schools in the Boston area, and we're actually able to apply the skills that we learn in the Institute. And then we come back, and we are, as our team, we are expected to complete homework assignments and tasks that we have to present. It's very rigorous. As I've been part of these institutes before, it's extremely rigorous. And so they expect you to complete work assignments, papers, presentations. We might have to do a presentation as a team that we either spend 2 or 3 days preparing. And what we would do is we would take the information that we learned in the classrooms and the information we learned from the observations in the schools, and then we would take it back and we would say, how are we going to apply this in Plymouth Public Schools? What can we bring back to the district to help train our teachers in terms of how we work together as teams and improving instruction in the classrooms? So it's an opportunity. We will get to interact with other teams from all over the world. The last institute that I attended, there were people there from New Zealand, Africa, other parts of the United States. And so you develop those connections as well, and you develop networks across the world. So it's a wonderful learning opportunity, and as part of the whole teacher evaluation process, I think it's important for our administrative team to be able to interact with other colleagues and professionals and practice those skills that we are expected to perform this year within the teacher eval system. So I don't know if that's enough. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Bottom line, what's the whole package going to cost the board? The bottom line.
Well, did you want to know the money that we encumbered from last year? Last year, the tuition is about $22,000, $23,000, but that was set aside for money at the end of last year's budget that we encumbered, and then the $7,000 that I'm requesting here.
So 12,500.
Well, last year at the end of the year, we encumbered the money for the tuition if we were actually accepted to the program. So that money was from last year's budget that we encumbered. This year's budget, the only money that we're asking for is the 12,500, and the Harvard is the 7,000 within the 12,500. Does that make sense?
No,
Okay.
it doesn't to me.
Okay, that's all right. Go
So
ahead.
what you're saying is there's about roughly $5,500 additional money to be left in that account once you transfer.
Right, to cover the training that we did for Writers Workshop.
Okay. Oh, that's the gap.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's
I
right.
didn't catch that. Does that make sense, Pat?
I'm not very good with numbers, but 22K,
It adds up.
22,000 is for Harvard itself, correct?
Right, and that money
Yes.
was set aside at the end of
Okay, that's
last
set
year.
aside, all right. That was in the budget, that was approved by the board in April.
Right.
And now we're looking at 12,500. That's my confusion. 22 and 12,500 is 34,500 to me.
No, we
Oh,
only needed
okay.
7 of the 12,500 for Harvard. The balance of that was to cover the work that we did with Writers Workshop this fall for teachers.
Oh. Yeah, it's two different things. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Well, I know I spoke to this 2 months ago that we were over budgeted, 123%. It was for 23%, 123. And now we're going to throw another 12,000 in there. Wow.
Do we anticipate any more
No, we don't for the rest of the year. I talked to Dr. Chen, and any other professional development will be embedded professional development that we will cover by our own internal staff.
Ms. Cruz, do you have a plan B in terms of if the board decides not to approve this, what you would do in terms of training to make up for that dip in scores?
You mean for the writers' workshop?
Well, you had talked about how this program at Harvard,
Right. The program at Harvard is to train the administrators to do observations in classrooms,
Right.
which is part of our obligation as administrators, part of the teacher eval process. The balance, the $5,000, has already been encumbered to pay for training for the writers' workshop.
my question is that, let's say for whatever reason, those funds aren't appropriated, you still want to be able to train the
Yeah.
administrators for the observations, because that's going to be important coming up. Do you have a plan to train them if this is not the option the board takes?
I don't have any other recourse in terms of the funding at this time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is part of the unfunded mandate, and we have to do this. And that's why excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can you take care of the audience, please?
Go ahead.
I have the floor. No comments, please. This is why we have to do this, because the unfunded mandate, this is something that we have to have the teachers learn to evaluate. That's why it's a touchy subject when it comes down from the state. We're forced by law to do this. We're staying within our budget because it's money that we're moving around within the budget. If I'm understanding correctly and explaining it correctly. It's not money that we're going over, it's money that we're moving, which we are allowed to do within our budget. And we have to do this because of the mandate. Please, with comments from the audience, Mr. Chair?
I just have a question. Legally, are we required to do this program, or are we just required to make sure that our administrators are trained?
Yes, we're required to train our administrators in the teacher evaluation process.
Okay.
Yes, this happens to be, this is not a requirement in itself, but it's the best opportunity that we can provide for our administrative team.
I know.
Any other questions? Seeing none, what's your motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion Danny, do I hear a second? Second Melissa. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
2 noes, Chris and Pat, the rest yes. Motion passes.